let's talk updates.
Yes, let's do it. Can we expect any updates to Build a Base?
No, quit asking.
Seth said we're getting heroes when they're upgrading.
There's 60 plus people on the Clash of Clans team. I'm just the one dumb enough to get in front of a camera. The profile needs an overhaul. We are talking a lot about smaller cosmetics, emotes, spray paints, builder skins.
What are you doing in the game to try and help players see success and help them to learn the game?
Building an army from scratch is kind of a nightmare. We need Home Village to be perfect. Is this a game about building lots of different villages? Like, what is this game about? Lost a lot of good men in Town Hall 11.
Clash is about progression, and temporary content is not satisfying.
Oh, when's the next season gonna start? I'm so sick of Hook Tower already, right? Some people just hate it.
Oh my gosh, I think it's the best one. I think it's interesting you mentioned the Eagle Artillery. Maybe we see it come back in a seasonal defense.
I'll give you a little behind the scenes here.
Seth, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for coming all the way to Helsinki.
No, the pleasure is all mine. I want to dive straight in at the deep end. There is a lot of questions about Legends League, loot attacks that have been hinted towards being added. Where are we in the process of that revamp, and when can we expect it?
In progress. When we launched Clash Anytime, as you know, right, Legend League players are still limited to their 8 attacks per day.
Yeah.
People below Legends can attack as much as they want. We are definitely looking into ways to allow Legend League players to have, beyond their fixed numbers of attacks per day. But yeah, we can't really give you like an exact timeline, but I do want to say that we talk a lot about Legend League, and this was something that we were thinking about while developing Clash Anytime. But of course, when you're developing it, you're not sure if it's going to be a hit or not. You're not sure if you're going to have to like roll it back. And the good news is that Clash Anytime has been great. Like a lot of our goals, I know, right?
I'm going to say you're not sure if this is going to like,
you never know.
if we're moving train.
In reality, it's been wonderful. Like it has improved the gameplay experience, has improved the business metrics. Like we're happy with it from kind of both sides. And that allows us to shift our focus to like, okay, what other features in the game are affected by this, and how can we make this, a permanent part of the game and make sure everything else synergizes really well with the new Clash Anytime structure.
Awesome. I would totally agree. Like from a player perspective, it has been fantastic. I think everyone's been happy with it. One thing that we do see from time to time though is you adjusted the trophy counts, and at the time I remember in the dev video you talked about being worried about trophy inflation, and that's why you had adjusted them the way you did. Have you seen any data from that? Are the trophies likely to stay where they are, or are we going to see some adjustments to the amount of trophies being offered in attacks?
Sure. I think it was the correct decision to dramatically reduce the trophy amounts, because we did see after Clash Anytime the amount of attacks per day like nearly doubled. It's a lot, even for very casual players. And so we are seeing this inflation of trophies, and that's leading to people getting maybe at the threshold of Legend League when they're not ready for it or they're not really certain about it. Long term, I don't know, like there's a lot of really interesting philosophical questions going around the team about the role of trophies and what they play. Like there are people who want to play casually and just sort of loot forever and never reach Legend League. And meanwhile, there's very competitive players at lower town halls who don't necessarily have access to Legend League until they're, deep into the town hall progression. So we're trying to figure out like, what is the role of trophies and what's the right amount to gain, and how do we make sure that Legend League especially represents legendary players, right? Like represents the absolute best in the game, whereas I think everyone right now sort of feels like you can sort of get to Legend maybe too easily, and then especially low Legends doesn't really represent the competitive structure that you might expect out of an esports title or something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and I think it's good that you're trying to cater to the different players, and even once you get to Legends League, like you're saying, there's such a different dynamic in the players in there, but it is cool for people to feel like they beat the game and got to Legends League, right? So I do like that aspect, but that also brings up an interesting point, whether it's leagues in the game or anything else. You have a really difficult job of catering to like casual to competitive, whether it be casual to like dedicated people in the number of attacks they do, even if it's not competitive. How do you try and balance the game for new, returning, and existing players?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that we struggle with kind of every update, is that Clash, in a way, it's almost easier to develop a really niche title, right? If you're making like a very specific, this game is just about the Pacific East military campaigns of World War II, and it's highly accurate to that. Pretty niche audience, but you can be really accurate to that.
Yeah.
Clash is a little challenging because we are trying to make the biggest strategy game in the world, right? The build and battle game that appeals to everyone. And you're right, that does range everyone from brand new players who've never seen Clash before, re-engaging players, but then also, within that, so this is side note, my uncle retired several years ago.
Okay.
The day he retired, he's like, what's that game you worked on? And at the time, it was Clash Royale. And he installed Clash Royale. He's played it every day since. Every day since for years. Like 6, 7 years of retirement. Never watched a YouTube video. I don't think he's ever met someone else who plays Clash Royale besides me, right? And we have millions of Clash of Clans players just like that, as well as millions of Clash of Clans players who are deeply involved in the community, watch all the esports events, really care about their rankings and stuff. So that's something we talk about a lot. The focus for this year has been trying to make sure that the journey and the end game are like a nice balance. I think it's a reasonable meme, maybe 2 years ago, when a new player would be like, oh, cool, new update, can't wait to play it in 6 years. They were right. It would take about 6 years from install to get to the end game. And we realized that's not a good balance. If you want your friends to get into the game, you need to feel like that journey is possible and kind of rewarding along the way.
Totally
so
agree.
One of the main focuses for the team this year, for both the updates you've already seen and the updates that are coming in the future, is really reinforcing that core loop and making sure that the journey to get to the end game is fun, but also it's done in a reasonable amount of time. And of course, along that way, we need to make sure, hey, re-engage players who are coming back. This isn't the same Clash you remember from 10 years ago. A lot has changed and updating people on all the changes. For new players, making sure that it feels like a modern video game. And Clash is about to celebrate its 13th anniversary, which, it's great to have a teenager in the house, but at the same time, a new player, they might install a brand new, just released 2025 video game, and Clash needs to look just as good, just as interesting, just as compelling, and that requires us to go through and sort of simplify old mechanics, streamline the progression, especially as you're moving faster than you did, in 2012 or 2012, 2015. So that is something that we talk about every day, but I think the main focus this year has been how do we make that journey a lot faster and a lot cleaner, smoother, but also make the end game something that players can really dig their teeth into. When you get there, you really feel like I am at the master tier of this game and getting access to features and inputs that newer players don't have to overwhelm themselves with.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point because people often ask oh, what's your favorite town hall level? And my answer is always the highest one because that's where that's where. But there are people that say, oh, this is my favorite level because of this or that. But if you can encourage people to be like, well, I want to get to the top level because that's where all the fun stuff is, then that's certainly the goal. I do think there is a bit of a concern of accelerating town hall levels. So we get a new town hall every 12 months now. With that, as you're saying, accelerating the progress to max. Longer term players have had time to learn game mechanics, learn the different troops, and yet newer players are pushed through the game faster that they don't get to learn those mechanics. So that's where you end up with a bit of a tricky balance at the top level as well, because there are a lot of players that haven't had time to learn the game in depth. How do you plan to tackle that in terms of helping players be educated through the game so they don't have to, in your example of your uncle, they don't have to go to YouTube? What are you doing in the game to try and help players see success and help them to learn the game?
Well, we just launched one feature that does sort of address this. The cookbook, I think, addresses a problem that players have had forever, which is, I'm new to the game, again, I don't have friends, I'm not watching YouTube, and I get to Town Hall 7 and I go, what kind of army should I play? Or I don't really know. Or maybe you've stuck with the same army from Town Hall 5 to Town Hall 10 and you're getting sick of it or bored and you want to try something else, and you literally don't know where to start. Building an army from scratch is kind of a nightmare. What's 300 housing space? How am I supposed to distribute that between tanks and DPS and support troops and all this kind of stuff? So historically, you've just gone to Judo Sloth's YouTube channel and learned how to do that. And now I think the cookbook, specifically with the blend of starter armies that are very basic and don't have any epic stuff, and then these featured armies that have super troops and epic equipment and stuff, help move you along that educational path. But I would challenge the idea that Clash is too complicated, or that we progress people, or that there's too much content for people to wrap their brains around. If you look at Clash Royale, the very first tutorial battle, I think there's 4 or 6 different cards you play with, and then the second battle, still a tutorial, you have the full 8 card deck, and then after that, boom, you're off to the races with 8 cards in your deck, and then more to choose from to alternate. In the first 6 town halls, there's 8 troops and 2 spells. It's a very small amount of content when you consider that people might be spending months. A really casual player might take 2 months or whatever to hit Town Hall 7. So I actually think that we can accelerate the early Town Hall progression and get you deeper into the game, get you to Heroes, for example, faster, where the game really starts to open up and has this customization and strategy element to it. We could probably get you to Town Hall 7 sooner, but that does require us to teach you a little more about the stuff you're getting and how to use it. It's one of those things that we deal with all the time, and there's probably lots of little features over the years that have helped with this. It's just, once it's out, it's just part of Clash and you don't really think of it. But great example, power potions. What a better way to try out a new troop or a new army strategy than use a power potion, see if you like it or not. That's a great one. The cookbook, as I just mentioned, we have the practice levels that launched years ago. Like, this is something that we do regularly try to reinvest in, just education of it. And we do have, of course, other things in the future that we hope will help out new players because, yeah, we do want that journey to be faster. The kind of hope is that a player can install and get to the end game 1 to 3 years. I mean, depends on, of course, how much you're playing and whatever. In order to rush through 15 town halls in 2 years, we are going to have to give players a lot more time and effort to learn. Clash Anytime is one of these features as well, in a way.
Yeah, no,
because
I would
before,
agree.
if I wanted to try out a new army, not only did I have to like start cooking it and then do 2 more attacks and then try it, but I might only do 2 attacks and then I have to wait longer, and then that throws off my learning. Now I switch to a new troop, pop a power potion, or a new army, new recipe, pop a power potion, 6 battles in a row. I feel like I got a much better handle on that attack than I did, months ago.
Yeah. No, I think you do a good job in those aspects. I just think there's a lot other areas you could improve on as well. Whether that be let's go through a list.
Yeah, hit me.
I think the cookbook obviously it's its first iteration, right?
Sure.
So I'm not going to like blast it too much. I think the armies certainly could be adjusted.
I made them, sorry.
They could be adjusted
Absolutely.
and improved for players. But also there is this thing of, okay, I copy these troops across, but I have no idea how to use them, right? Like even if you think of the most simplistic effective strategy at high level is like Royal Champion Dive with like all invis and dragons, and that's it. 1 spell, 1 troop.
Sure.
But for someone that has never seen that before and they copy that army, they're like, how am I using these invis spells?
Right.
Do I put
You're
them on the
using them on your
dragons?
giants or
Do I
something?
put, like,
Yeah, of course.
What am I doing with these? So even that, when there's literally 1 troop, 1 spell, they don't know how to use it in a lot of cases. Again, like you could probably easily link to a YouTube video, but I think what would be better is if you have a replay button where, even if it's not an actual attack, you just like mock up the bases. I don't know if this is difficult when it comes to balance changes, but where they could press a replay button and see that army so they know how to use it. I always used to like TV Royale, where people could watch other people attacking. Maybe that's something that you can lean into, where people can just watch people that are using like this composition, see how they do it, or they can watch the top players who are battling using a specific army, and then they can copy that army into their recipes from there. So that's just one example in the cookbook. I think that when it comes to this troops, and you said there's only a few that get added, but I think there's a lot of mechanics that are difficult to know until you maybe you identify that the troop is doing something weird, but it doesn't tell you in the description or anything. And I understand trying to keep descriptions basic so you're not overwhelming people, but I really think there should be like an advanced description where any mechanic about this troop, I can read about it if I wish. I don't, there's a basic description, but an advanced one. Let's use the Druid as an example.
Sure.
It can bounce through 5 different troops, whether that's ground or air. It will transform after it's lost its HP or a set amount of time. That's not clear in the current description, which means from a player perspective, yes, they can try it out and stuff, but they need a conscious effort of, let's deploy just this troop and watch what it does. Let me deploy this troop alongside a bunch of other stuff. And yes, as a creator, that's what I do when it comes to sneak peek videos, to figure out what do these new additions do. But there's not a lot of players that will do that, really. Like some players will, obviously. So I think even stuff like that can go a long way in helping people to learn the game better.
Sure. Yeah, actually, some of these things, very doable. So as you noticed on the featured army, at the top of the cookbook, we have a kind of a highlighted army there. There's a video link, and you can go watch the video that Ferry and Marco recorded. It's not a full strategy guide, but it's a start. So we do have the technology to make videos, link them, and then have them attached to the recipes so you could watch a video replay of that. One of the things that was tricky with the cookbook armies initially was that we wanted to make sure that players who didn't have super troops or a lot of epic equipment could play them. And that is a bit challenging because, as you know, that like from Town Hall 15 and up, the best army at every single situation was like Royal Champion Electro Boots with Invis. So we're looking at ways to address that, right? Like we don't want that to be a dominant strategy of every single attack of, that's a balancing issue that we need to deal with. But also I didn't want a player at Town Hall 15 to go, oh, what army should I play? And every single one is like, well, Royal Champion with Electro Boots. You go, well, I don't have Electro Boots. And then you're stuck. Yeah. So we did set some pretty restrictive guidelines on all the starter armies, specifically all basic troops, all basic equipment, that kind of thing. And of course, like nobody really uses archer puppets. So when you're like, oh yeah, archer puppet's good at Town Hall 7, it's not really meant to be like this is the most optimal strategy, but rather it gets you in there, you feel like you have everything, you try it out, and the player themselves can go, oh, maybe I don't want archer puppet, maybe I'll use my frozen arrow that I got from an event and something instead. But I think we're going to loosen the restrictions on those moving forward. I do think that especially for endgame players, Town Hall 15, 16, 17 is a bit too restrictive. I think it's reasonable to assume that by the time you're Town Hall 16, you've probably gotten epic equipment, just with gems, if nothing else, like not even the event pass. And you're probably sitting on gems and wondering like, okay, I can buy one epic equipment, which one should it be? And then I think the cookbook armies can help direct those decisions. On terms of the info screens and stuff, we added those videos not too long, a year ago, 2 years ago, and the idea there was kind of the same thing, right? Like how many more ways can we show the player what they're getting in a way that doesn't require them to like be lost or experiment themselves, but there's always more improvements to be made. And I think that our focus this year has really been on the core experience, and so a lot of these discussions do come back to how do we teach new players, how do we build things that are exciting for endgame players. Druid's a really interesting example because that's a really complicated troop and not always super intuitive, and that's also a little bit of our problem. Like maybe we shouldn't have made a troop that was so mechanically complicated so that players could just pick it up a bit easier. Is there a way to do Druid, smoother next time if we wanted to do a troop with that many kind of overlapping mechanics?
Yeah, I'm not sure because I would say that it's good to have some troops like that for people that do want to delve into like the highly deep strategy. And Druids, I think they were a little bit unbalanced at first, and by a little I mean like they got nerfed by 50%, but like I feel like now they are a bit like a headhunter. They are used by the really competitive players and they're used very effectively by them, but they're not used by the masses. And I don't think every troop or every unit needs to be used by the masses. There should be those troops as well that people can distinguish themselves, that really want to get a bit more clever in the game. So I don't think
we do talk about that in our playtest too. Like, is this a one-of troop or is this a spam troop? And you do want a nice balance. Like, I was on the team when we developed Dragon Rider, and that was sort of like a fun spam troop for casual players. But you're right, 300 housing space of headhunters is not getting anywhere. And I think trying to find a good balance of sort of support or specialized troops versus spammable troops. Support. Yeah, I'm not saying Druid was a mistake or anything. I was just giving an example of like, really it's on us as game designers to develop troops where the first time you play it, you go, whoa, I get it. Like that's pretty cool. And if you have to dig too deep into it, maybe that's more our problem than like the UI's problem or the player's problem. So we just try to keep that in mind.
Yeah, exactly. Before I move on to the next question, actually, I think there's a lot of things on defense that could be done to try and improve that area, because defense is like 50% of the game, and yet it's so hard to get into base building or like learn that side of the game that there is certainly a lot of work that could be done there. For example, I had a Legend season a couple of months ago where I was like, I'm going to design my own bases, and it's really fun to come up with that initial concept of like, what's the core reason this build will work? And once you've built that, then you get to the point of like non-defensive buildings, trying to like, and yes, you can place those very optimally to like mess up troop pathing and stuff, but it's not as fun finishing that build. Like if there was a button that just let people scramble the rest of the buildings, or like maybe gave them some suggestions as to where to put them, like it would maybe encourage people into base building a little bit more. Also, when it comes to like learning attacks, I think there should be a clear line drawn that I understand the concerns of allowing heroes to be used whilst they're upgrading, but I think for a friendly battle, they should just be allowed. Like you can draw the line that it's a friendly battle, a friendly war, that's where people practice. And if the heroes are upgrading, then they can't practice. Like it's a friction point that, in my view, doesn't need to be there. But I'm not expecting an answer from you per se. I actually already had that discussion about heroes when they're upgrading with David Burke. So I do want to, swiftly move on to the next thing, which is the topic of players feeling overwhelmed from a lot of new content coming out. We talk about the crafted defenses in the Inside the Builder Hut episode, so I don't want to like duplicate things here. But if I were to set a 1 minute timer, Can you give us a rundown of like why you added the crafted defenses and what you're looking to iterate on them moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing to remember is that this is the first season of these crafted defenses. So really everything is up for grabs in future seasons. We gave it a 3-month window so that we had time to evaluate. You know, like for those who aren't really sure of how production works, we're already working on like the next month Gold Pass when the monthly Gold Pass launches, right? So oftentimes Gold Pass seasons are sort of locked, months in advance. 3 months gives us the time to evaluate, really see how it goes, and make good decisions for the next season. And all these things are up for grabs. Like maybe the season is too short, maybe it's too long, maybe 3 is too many, or it should be 2 or 4, or there's all these things we can change. And so I don't want anyone to take the first season of Crafted Defenses as like absolute gospel that will never change. That's just really not the case.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned earlier, we want the journey and the end game to be like a rewarding journey and a really healthy end game. Now, one of the problems we've had in the past was having enough content to keep end game players occupied and feel like that they've got stuff to continue upgrading.
Yeah.
But then when we move on from that town hall, catch-up players have to go through this. So the dual levels, think about that. That's a great example in like Town Halls 12, 13, whatever. We weren't sure what the right approach was for this. So what we did was, well, what if we just made 2 levels on Archer Towers? That way there's more stuff to do at Town Hall 12, Town Hall 13. Well then, now years later, people are coming through Town Hall 12 and 13 going, why are there 2 levels on these upgrades? And it's like, oh, you're right, like, it probably shouldn't be. So the goal of temporary content, the reason why we're doing that, is to make sure that the existing town halls have enough interesting stuff to upgrade, a lot of really meaningful choices in how you want to build your base and what direction you want to go to, while making sure that content isn't slowing down players who are catching up later. When we're on Town Hall 20, Town Hall 17 can't have all the stuff that it currently has because you'll never get through it, you'll never catch up, or the costs have to be so low that it's not super feasible. So what temporary content allows us to do is reduce the timers, reduce the amount of time it takes to catch up to the end game, while still keeping the end game really chunky and having a lot of really interesting upgrades to keep you occupied till Town Hall 18 comes out. That's the thought process behind it. That's why we decided to go with this. In terms of the specifics, like these things cost too much or take too long to upgrade, or I don't like the defensive choices you've given me or whatever, like that can all change from season to season, and maybe the season itself changes in length as well.
Awesome. I think a lot of the goals you have for crafted defenses are really good. And I can understand the reasons for you doing them. And I think you meet a lot of those objectives. What it feels like is that the expectation has been thrown off.
Okay.
So to me, it feels like from a free-to-play player's perspective mainly, it's already very, very tricky to get to be a maxed player as a free-to-play. And that is fine. That allows you to like have players that are buying the Gold Pass and stuff like that to actually accelerate. But the free-to-play players can get there if they put the time in. Whereas I think even if it's mathematically possible, the fact that the defenses have a 3-month window, but it takes like nearly 2 months to max them, I think the expectation that you can get 2 maxed and then max this on top is like, it just throws off the balance a little bit. If that goal feels so far-fetched that they can't get there, then they're much less likely to like persist with it, because I'm just not going to get there.
Sure.
And I know the reason for it is to try and help those players moving through, but if it throws off the balance where they feel like they're not actually going to be able to get there and then max this thing, that's where I think the main issue on them lies.
Yeah, it's definitely a balance. I mean, this is something, again, that we've mentioned a few times in this video. Part of the reason that we can do temporary content means we can make that journey a lot faster, which means that if you're sitting at Town Hall 14 and going, God, I'm never going to get to max, we can actually do a lot in terms of reducing costs, timers, accelerating you, so that you really do feel like it's possible for you to get to Town Hall 16 or 17. But if you're sitting at Town Hall 17, we don't want you to be fully maxed for very long, right? Like we see what it's like. Everyone likes the dream of being maxed and having that little, no more upgrades available there. That's cool for about 2 weeks. And then after that, the game kind of loses its luster because it's a game of progression. Crafted defenses are something that we think adds a lot of personality to your base. It's one of the few things that actually allows you to customize your base compared to other people. So we're going out with this first season. We hear you. I can't promise anything right now because the season really just started. We're less than 2 weeks into it. Yeah, I need the data. I will say, like, loud and clear. It's not like we're sitting in the team room completely oblivious to people's concerns, or when we read these Reddit posts or something, we're not like, wrong. We take this into consideration, and we want to make sure that the next season is, of course, better than the first season. Season after that's better. So a lot of that means we're also learning what kind of defenses we can put out there. So for example, Hook Tower or something really controversial, even in our playtest, we almost didn't put it in the crafted defenses because some people just hate it.
Oh my gosh, I think it's the best one.
Exactly. And some people loved it. And so what's
fun.
really, really cool about seasonal or the seasons of crafted defenses is it allows us to experiment with stuff that we don't really have the confidence to put in permanently. Like, can you imagine if every single base had like a flame spitter and a Hook Tower, right? Like it's just a lot to deal with. People freaked out when we got rid of the Eagle artillery, and we didn't want to put like too many amazing, powerful defenses in as permanent upgrades and then make the attacking too complicated. So we're really excited about the gameplay aspect of it. They're very balanced. I mean, we can talk about this more in the Inside the Builder Hut episode, but like looking at the data, it is shocking how
You nailed that
evenly
aspect of
balanced they are. And so my message to players, I guess in the first few weeks of the season is, don't stress out. There's no wrong choice. Pick the one you like the most and upgrade it and see how you feel, say, a month from now. And if you still feel like, man, this is tough, like it's taking too long to upgrade, it's taking my focus away, keep telling us, keep letting us know. And your feedback has a really good chance to be integrated into Season 2.
Yeah. I'll give you my response, but I don't want to go on about crafted defenses for too long. We've got a lot of update questions I want to get to. So I think it's interesting you mentioned the Eagle artillery. Maybe we see it come back in a seasonal defense. That would be interesting. Like, you could actually bring previous defenses back temporarily, and temporary content is not satisfying. Like, it's not satisfying to, yes, you reap the benefit of it there and then, but once it's gone, that's not a great feeling, because Clash is about progression. We like to see our base progressing. It's one of the reasons that I've been saying I think cosmetics that you can give for superchargers or the amount of crafted defenses people max, I think that should be a high priority, because then players get to like keep something from there's a reason you used to prestige in Call of Duty to get like that little icon, right? I think that would be really important to give people back for the temporary upgrades. One more on like temporary defenses before we move to like update specific questions, but obviously we have superchargers, we now have the crafted defenses, you've explained your rationale for temporary defenses at end game. Is this as far as we will see temporary content, or is there anything else in the pipeline? I did have like a comment about, could we see supercharged troops? Is this as far as you're going with temporary content, or is there more in mind?
We don't know. Like, I mean, we have, of course, discussed supercharged troops. It's on Reddit. It's a thing you can think of, right? The truth is, we will probably at some point go too far with temporary content and have to dial it back. I don't see temporary content as a thing that just continually, like, over, we're not going to have 10 supercharged levels just to do it, kind of thing. But we don't know what the limit is right now. We do know that it's sometimes difficult to have enough content at max Town Hall. Like, when we launched Town Hall 17 and the time it takes to get to Town Hall 18, people are right on the razor's edge, right? Oftentimes we're putting out extra upgrades because people are maxed within a month of the last update coming out, and we feel like we got to keep feeding them stuff to do. So temporary content really helps us address that problem by giving significantly more upgrades for max players to keep them busy. But yeah, there could be a day that we go too far. Like, let's say we ended up doing supercharged troops and it turns out that that's the breaking point. Like, you can just see it in the data, people aren't having fun anymore, they're overwhelmed. Well, then we'd walk it back. We don't currently know what the limit is right now, and so crafted defenses are a way to test that limit without, again, just adding 2 more supercharged levels to everything. Let's try to do it in a different way. It sounds like some people are hitting their limits. So let's see, like, is that anxiety, or is it real, or is it, a real concern? If crafted defenses are the breaking point, then yeah, we'll probably pull them back a little bit, and then that'll be the limit of it. If it's not, if it turns out to be part of the game, we would probably try out some other temporary stuff, but I would ask the community just to have the understanding that we are going to keep testing with this, but if it goes too far and it really is causing pain to the player base, we're not going to stick to it. Like, we're not religious about any of this stuff. This is something that we're trying to do to serve a very tangible, pragmatic goal, which is making sure maxed out players with 6 builders hungry for upgrades have enough stuff to do in between each update.
Yeah. I think that's very wise, and I'm glad that you acknowledge that, of like, you don't know where the limit is, but once you hit it, you will dial it back, and that's understandable, because we do want things to upgrade, right? Like, it is something that people desire. There's a reason that on my second account, I only buy the Gold Pass and the Event Pass. I don't buy any special offers because I want something to do. Like, typically for content, I max my main account, but I'm more active on my second account because I have upgrades
Stuff
to do, right?
Yeah,
so
of course.
I thoroughly understand the rationale for it, but I'm glad that you accept that there will be a line that you cross, and then you got to dial it back, which is good to hear.
We can be honest with you like this because I think the Clash community is one of the best communities I've ever worked with, right? Like, it's very mature, very understanding of the goals, very trusting of the game team, and so I think that is a virtuous cycle, right? Like, we can be open door with you guys because we're going to make mistakes. But the best thing that happens when we make mistakes is that the community has trust in us, and they go, you know what? They missed the mark this time, but we know that they're going to fix it and do it better next time. I've been some of the games I've played, I've been playing for 20 or 30 years. You know, Magic the Gathering, online games like World of Warcraft, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there are eras that are good and bad, and you look back on the bad eras and go, oof, like I wish they hadn't have done that, but I understand what they were trying to do, and then the second time they did it, they fixed it, right? And I think we see that with crafted defenses. It's temporary because we didn't want to make any mistakes about putting in defenses that were miserable for the gameplay experience that we couldn't walk back in the future. And we did a lot of upgrades because we wanted to make sure that Judo Sloth 1 had a lot of stuff to do while Judo Sloth 2 was catching up to the end game. And yeah, if we went too far, we'll address it, but it's just too early to know. We're recording this, again, less than 2 weeks after the launch of it, so almost nobody has anything maxed out yet, and we're just not really sure how it's going to feel long term. It could be that 2 months in, a lot of people have it maxed or near maxed, and they're going, oh, when's the next season going to start? I'm so sick of Hook Tower already, right? And then, actually maybe there should be fewer upgrades in shorter seasons. We don't really know, so we'll keep adjusting, but I just want to call out that the Clash community is part of the reason we're able to do this, is that I feel we can be honest and have this back and forth and take your feedback honestly because it's a group effort, right? Like we're making this game for you, and we're only doing a good job if you're happy.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's amazing, and thank you for calling out the release date as well, by the way, because this is likely going to air like weeks after it's.
Sure.
So that's important that people recognize when you're saying about the data that like you don't have that yet because this was recorded weeks ago.
Yeah.
But
Still
anyway,
June in this world, in this room.
I think it's a very important aspect that you mentioned, right? Of like, and you have built that trust with the community over a long period of time, and we've seen you make mistakes, but it is always awesome, and you see this as well, and you'll have seen on the crafted defenses some of the discussion on Reddit about like you guys fix things. Like with the gold pass, it was a clear mistake, and like you acknowledged it and you fixed it within like 3 days. So you have built up that reputation as well, and I think that's where, like you said, you can be honest, but you can also know that the community will have that little bit more trust as well because you have been doing a good job in the past with that. So,
and of course, there's 60 plus people on the Clash of Clans team. I'm just the one dumb enough to get in front of a camera. So it's certainly not just me or Ferry. It's everybody.
Yeah, no, of course.
Let's talk updates.
Yes, let's do it. We've seen over the past year or two, it's been solely home village. Like that is the focus that we've had. And naturally, there was a lot of questions about Builder Base and Clan Capital. So starting with Builder Base, can we expect any updates to Builder Base? Are there any thoughts on where the team is moving with Builder Base?
Sure. You're totally right. The focus for the last year has been on the home village. And part of the reason why is that Clash used to be a very small team. Supercell teams used to be very small. One of the big philosophical changes we've made in the last 2 years is like, you know what, we need to have teams big enough to serve all the needs of the players. And when the Clash team expanded, and now we're over 60 people now, so triple the size of what it was during Clan Capital release when I was on the team originally, we realized there was a ton of backlog. There were so many things that needed to be done in the home village that we decided to commit the whole year to focus on that initial core loop. We need, as I mentioned earlier, this journey, this end game needs to be really, really strong before we can determine what role do these other features play in feeding into that core loop. There was a period in time where I think we thought that you'd have this home village and you've had the builder base as a totally separate parallel. Certainly when Builder Base launched, the idea then was that we're not going to do any more town halls ever again for the main village. It's going to be stopped at town hall like 11 or 12
Oh, really?
or whatever.
I never realized that was the
There was like
intention.
a 2.5-year gap between town halls,
yes.
if
Well,
you remember
there
that.
was, yes.
So the thought there was, we're not going to do any more town halls. We don't want to do any more progression.
goodness.
We're just going to make, we'll have Builder Base, and then that'll have its own progression. And when that's done, we'll do another base or whatever. Clearly, that's not what the players wanted, right? Like we just see that in the metrics, and even your reaction now, it's like, oh my God, what? Why? 13 years, we got a lot of time to learn. So I think what we've realized now is that it's not a multi-tent game. It's the home village is Clash of Clans. And so that's where we've been putting our focus. And we don't really want to invest huge amounts of time into these other features until we know exactly where they fit and how they reinforce the core loop. So You're correct to notice there hasn't been much done on capital and builders. That doesn't mean that we don't have discussions, that we don't have ideas. One very minor thing that you probably didn't notice was actually builder base got moved from Town Hall 4 to Town Hall 6. Very minor change, but part of the reason why was, again, people are moving faster through those early town halls, and we were questioning, does it make sense for builder base to appear on like day 3 or day 4 of your progression? So by pushing it even a little further back, we can emphasize more to new players that really the focus here is on the main base. Builder base, though, is really entwined into a lot of our systems. You know, clan games often requires it. The daily tasks of Gold Pass require builder base, so it's still there, right? But I think we need to figure out more long-term, what do you get out of builder base to the home village beyond just a 6th builder, right? Like, how does this really play into the experience? When should it unlock? How fast should it go? Should it reset? Like, should it be seasonal, right? Like, I don't know. These are things, none of these things are common,
I know,
right?
You do just have to clarify so people
to
don't
clarify,
take it literally. But
no work is being done on any of these ideas at this exact moment. But it's more of just, the philosophy is, we need home village to be perfect.
Yes.
Near perfect, 90% perfect,
understand.
and then we go, okay, at what point is builder base the absolute best addition to this core experience, as opposed to trying to live as sort of a separate village side by side alongside it?
I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think it's wise to push it back as well, because it's interesting that you mentioned the gap in town halls at Town Hall 11, because we sometimes see from players this like overwhelming nature of the amount of stuff going on now, the events, the amount of updates and buildings to upgrade. But my response is always like, that's a good thing. Like, I understand the overwhelming nature of it, but think back to when Town Hall 11 was, and we literally didn't see a new troop for like 2 years. Like, it was so, and we lost so many players there because it was just boring, right? There was nothing really going on. It was only the people truly invested that like stayed at max level. Obviously there was people coming up, but like we lost a lot of players there. And I do wonder whether the builder base
lost a lot of good men in Town Hall 11.
I do wonder whether the builder base actually adds to that overwhelming nature. And I'm not saying like kill the builder base, but does it add to the overwhelming nature of like, okay, so I got to max this thing as well? All right, I'm done with this game, right? Like, or is it best to just focus on the home village, like you said, and then people know this is where the direction is, and not have the builder base as this like, oh my gosh, I've got to do this as well, right?
We're even seeing that more with Clash Anytime. So I think one of the distinct features of builder base was the unlimited instant attacks. But now that Clash Anytime has that, the kind of defining factor of builder base is in a way diluted, right? It's not as prominent anymore. I do think we are seeing this feedback, again, actually, so since Clash Anytime came out, people are advancing through the early Town Halls much faster, like significantly faster than before. So we have some players who are hitting Town Hall 6 and joining a clan and all that within a week, 2 weeks, one or 2 weeks. And for those players, they have this really odd experience of home village, build your village, you got it, doot. And then on day 3, they're like, here's builder base, build this village. You're like, okay, start building this. And then you join a clan, and 2 days later, it's like, here's clan capital, contribute to your clan capital. And you're like, is this a game about building lots of different villages? Like, what is this game about? Now, you and I know this game is about home village progression. It's about getting to Town Hall 17, getting all the cool stuff at the end game, and enjoying the journey along the way. But it's not clear to new players because we're introducing so many new villages so quickly. So I think that is a big discussion of like, how do we introduce clan capital in a way that reinforces this is supplemental to your main village? And how do we introduce builder base in a way that it's clear why I'm going there and doing these battles and how it supports the main village as well?
Yeah. I think clan capital has a bigger reason to be started early in the sense that if I, get my friend to download and start playing Clash of Clans, we can't really play together if I'm 17 and he's, whereas clan capital is a route where people can actually, play together in a way and feel. So I think clan capital has a bigger role of being released early.
And you don't build. I think that's the key. So actually, I'll give you a little behind the scenes here. One of the earliest versions of clan capital was that each person would build their own district. So there'd be 50 districts and you'd build your own. But it came back to, this was a very early concept. We didn't even prototype it. But one of the big feedbacks when we even discussed this was like, I got to build another base, and so few people build bases already, as you mentioned, like that the idea that then we'd have more burden of like, hey, build and upgrade your capital district, and if you don't do it, everyone in the clan's mad at you for having a weak one. It's like, oh my God, again.
I could see
so
that.
That's why we have this sort of contribution system where really only the clan leaders are building the base and everyone else is just dumping resources into it. That was, a way to address that concern of like, how many villages do I got to build in this game? So.
Yeah, I mean, I just find it interesting that you you are conscious of like not just rushing an update for these villages and actually just making sure it's connecting to the core gameplay loop in a clever way. I think that's really smart. Moving back to the home village then, like you said, home village is Clash of Clans. Sorry, Asher. Are there any plans to expand single-player practice maps? Like, I personally think that the single-player Goblin maps would be perfect as like a map maker in Clash of Clans. Are there any plans for like single-player and practice map?
Nothing I can talk about today, but I agree with everything you said. I think one of the issues is that the single-player campaign we have currently doesn't adjust to your town hall level or anything like that. It's just sort of a static series of maps. So if you start it and then stop by Town Hall 5 because you just forget about it, and you come back at Town Hall 9, you just like ruffle stomp your way through everything. It doesn't really scale up to match you. There are some really cool ideas. It's not terribly hard to make more levels. I mean, we obviously make challenge levels every month. We do the controllable hero events from time to time. So making new maps isn't a huge issue for us, and we have had a lot of discussions about UGC and ways to, enable players to make more of their own content. So it's not impossible, but it's not, a focus right now largely because PvP battles are really the core of the game.
Yeah.
So few people engage in the current single-player campaigns that if we were to do a new single-player campaign or more levels, it has to have a really good reason or a really juicy reward to do so. It wouldn't just be like, oh, we added 5 more levels.
I think they are actually incredibly popular, but I think the reason you don't see much engagement in it is because they're very one and done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's just the unfortunate nature of them. So maybe if you did have user-generated content, you could like rotate new maps in more often to where they weren't as one and done. But I will say for the Goblin maps, I like that they are fun and like goofy as well.
Have weird
like
mechanics.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't, like some of the challenge levels are like an actual attack because you're using that to like teach people a various strategy or whatever. But I personally like the puzzle levels where it's different to the core gameplay, and you can tell that it's different. You're not just doing a Clash of Clans attack in this other part. Like, I like that the Goblin maps are really goofy. You've got like a ton of Inferno Towers and like the Eagle Artillery one,
That's what I mean. I was just going to say, like, Clan Capital, one of the most fun things about Clan Capital to me is that we could do districts that had, 8 of the same weird defense, and of course you can't do that in Home Village. So there are a lot of things that you can do in single player that you can't do in multiplayer, right? You can make a Goblin map with a 5% completion rate, and it's okay to keep bashing your head into the wall to try to fix that, whereas you never want PvP battles, to lose 19 out of 20 times. So
yeah, exactly. And I think as long as the single player maps, whatever you did with them, they kept that like unique charm as well, would be really important. So I wanted to go through a couple of quick fire things with you now, if that was okay. Just mix up the pace.
Okay.
Base layouts. Could we expect more base layouts to begin with? Is that something we could see in the future?
Could is the answer to everything. Right now, most people don't use a lot of their base layouts, so it's possible, but I don't think it's something that you should expect like in the near future. Renaming layouts, though, might be more viable, or more, I would say, these are all viable, maybe more useful. Like, we do have a lot of very hardcore players on the team who are switching between different base layouts, and they lose track of their own, what's the purpose of this base? What was I using this for? And I think that's maybe a pretty trivial thing to add. It's just a little bit in the UI there, but I will say that like one of the big challenges with mobile game development in general is that it's 80% UI UX, and adding 10 UI UX artists doesn't necessarily make it go faster, right? So there is some limit of like what's the right amount of UX artists we can have where we keep a consistent style and make sure that all the features are going through that. And I think that's been, for a lot of these things, that's often the bottleneck is like, we need to make sure that we're not risking a bigger feature that has a lot of screens involved, like Clash Anytime, things like that, because we're doing too many little like dinky quality of life things that might not have a huge impact. But I do like the idea of renaming layouts, and of course more base layouts or even more like recipe slots are something that for a small selection of players is very useful.
Yeah, like I mean the extra base layouts, even in the current form, cost gems. I think that's fine because then the more like competitive people that are pushing in Legends and wanting to rotate more bases, like it's easier to manage. And the renaming is like one thing I touched upon in my updates I'd like to see video. But yeah, when you're pushing, and I just have like a Google Doc that I list, Home Village base number 1 is this. Clan War base number 1 is this base. And then like you're trying to track it there, it'd be obviously a lot easier to just have the name in the game. Maybe that's something that's even tied into when you share a base link. You can actually plug in the name and it'll copy that in the base link. CC requests being tied into that as well, and actually under a base selecting what you want as a reinforcement CC, so you don't have to like have that tracked somewhere else as well.
All right, yeah, go in and manually do it every clan war, that kind
Yeah,
of stuff.
so like those things I think would be really good when it comes to bases. I did say we're going to keep it quick fire. Yeah, I'm trying to obviously pull a lot of questions from my community and stuff. One I've seen a lot was renaming of clans. Is that, it happens for the esports scene, but is that something we could see in the future?
Could, sure. Like the focus this year is home village, but we've discussed what's the focus for next year, and one of the main things that keeps coming up is just social. Like social gameplay is so key to Clash of Clans, and defining like how to make better social experiences is part of that, and a lot of these things around clans are in those discussions. Like, should we have clan alliance? I mean, this is
the next
the
question.
next one. Yeah, should we have alliances between clans? Should we allow people to move between clans? What is 50 people even the right amount of people for a clan? You know what I mean? Like, trying to figure out what is the best way to do social in Clash of Clans is like a focus for the future, but I can't promise anything in the next update or two because again, we're working through the backlog of all the home village stuff that we want to do.
Mm-hmm. What about a private tab for friendly challenges, so you could just friendly challenge your own base without like annoying your clan? You could maybe keep some of your base. Maybe that's an actual solution to base slots. You could actually just, I mean, I guess you'd still have the cooldown, but whatever. You could store more bases in your private tab.
Sure.
Store armies in there. Any thoughts on that? Because I personally think it would be amazing. Like when I was doing a bunch of friendly challenges to like warm up for legend attacks, I would like move out of my regular clan because I was just for an hour, I was just going to be like spamming with friendly challenges, and like some people even just not even that aside of spamming the chat. Some people don't even want others to watch them as they're doing the friend. So there is like a workaround to go to a different clan, but I don't think there'd be a security risk or anything of like having a private tab.
Yeah, that's not a terrible idea. We've also, in Clash Anytime, when you make your troop request, if you notice you can actually X out of that, you can X the request and make it delete from chat. So that's another feature we could also add where you're able just to delete all those records from it. So you're still doing it in your clan chat without a private tab, but at least it doesn't clutter because afterwards you just go, okay, delete.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could see that getting a bit tedious as well, to be fair, but maybe like some sort of filtering system could be a solution as well. Removing obstacles, not requiring a builder is something that we've seen, and I had a lot of questions about, could we see that for walls?
No.
Now, yes, I know the reasoning behind this, but can you explain that for people?
No! Quit asking! No, I was kidding. The reason why, so Clash Anytime, we let people attack as much as they want. Here's the problem. If I have all my builders active and I'm about to finish my session and I've got 10 million gold and I don't want someone to take my 10 million gold, I just dump it all into walls.
Yep.
No builder needed, just boop, 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 and now my base has 0. And of course, one of the things we want is that every time I see a base, when I'm nexting and looking for bases to loot, that there are juicy targets out there. Nothing's more exciting than finding a base with like 2 million gold and elixir, and you're like, oh baby, right? And that would essentially never happen if people could just dump all their excess resources into walls without a builder. So you can do this, of course, if you have just one builder free, you can Clash Anytime and then just dump your resources into walls and leave your base very barren. But we don't want to allow that when you have full max builders because then there's essentially no resources to loot anymore. So,
totally. Thank you for covering that. Just having that rationale for people as well is important when they don't understand the reasons why and they just see it as a friction point.
You know what we almost did with Clash Anytime is we almost put it in so you could only upgrade X number of walls per day because we were so worried about people dumping all the resources into walls that we almost said like, okay, with Clash Anytime as a limit, you can only upgrade 10 wall pieces a day or something just to prevent that from happening. We decided not to go out that limit, and thankfully it hasn't been so bad, but
I'm glad you didn't add that,
that,
because I think that would have definitely been a frustrating point. And when it comes to Hammer Jam, you'd have to lift that anyway, because like that's an exciting time for people to be able to like get through as many walls as they can in the. So anyway, you can just say yes to these next couple. Are we seeing more updates this year? Town Hall 18 this year? Heroes when they're upgrading? I was trying to trick you. As part of the like celebration of 100,000 subscribers, I have a list of interviews that we've been doing, and David Burke actually spoke into the using Heroes when they're upgrading. So we don't need to go into it in any great depth. I was just trying to like mess with you a little bit there and get a yes that I could clip and
exactly.
Seth said we're getting Heroes when they're upgrading. Anyways, moving on. We talked about like friendly challenges and having its own private tab, but for me, I think there's a lot that could be done to improve like friendlies altogether, right? Whether that be having friendly challenges persist, whereby multiple people could attack, and then we have some sort of like leaderboard within the clan. I would love to see a friendly Legends day, right? Like one thing you asked for creator feedback with Clash Anytime was, Could you see people like live streaming the game longer from this? Can you imagine the live streaming opportunities of if you could have like 8 live streamers go into a friendly Legend Day, everyone attacks everyone, there's like the leaderboard just like Legends, and like, you know, that's like a 1-hour stream for everyone to show their perspectives, and oh my gosh, I just think it would be so amazing. So like a friendly Legend Day, but then all out blown friendly wars where you could just have fun. It's a friendly, whether we ban troops, change the attack time, the amount of troops we can take, controllable heroes could live in there. Maybe you could even use your hero abilities on defense, because why not? It's a friendly, like just let us go wild. What are your thoughts on any of the above and improving friendlies in the future?
These are all great suggestions. The way that we tend to work, though, is focusing on one set of features at a time or one aspect of the game at a time. I think with a lot of these things, if or when they come to Clash, it would be happening kind of all at once. Like it would be sort of you'd see an update that says, we are reworking friendly challenges, and in that update would have all of these things, you know, like 30 of these fixes or changes all at once. I don't think they would be done sort of piecemeal, little bit by bit, but none of those are being worked on at this exact moment, but just
if we see something like that in the future, likely we would see like bang, big thing in the future, rather than like, oh, you can do this and like little bitty.
And same with the clan stuff. Like the clan chat things are likely going to be, wow, rework the clans, and then in that rework is a new clan chat with all these new features and all that kind of stuff, just so that we don't have again individual artist programmers working on like random disparate parts of the game at the same time.
Yeah, totally. I personally think like features like that should be a big focus moving forward, whether it's Clash Anytime, whether it's changing and improving friendly challenges, because clearly you need to keep the game progressing at max level, which we've already discussed why that's important, but also that can't just be the only route of like to help people enjoy the game and want to keep playing. To get to that point, they need the best gaming experience. So I think focusing on features is something that should be a big priority. And you know, I'm not saying that you're not doing that, because clearly you've done that with Clash Anytime, but from my perspective, I think improving the actual gameplay throughout all Town Hall levels and all players is something that is obviously very important to keep focused on. One thing I did want to touch on was the profile. It's been hinted towards in the past as like it could do with updating, whether that be like icons, banners. As I mentioned earlier, I think the more you're leaning into temporary content, the more I feel like a cosmetic, whether that's your icon that like upgrades the amount of supercharges you do, I think it's becoming a higher priority the more you're leaning into temporary content. But is there anything on the roadmap with regards to the profile and new UI there? Because it feels like something that's hinted towards, but it's always that thing of it's kicked down the road because there's something else that's more important.
Yeah, I definitely think that the profile needs an overhaul. I mean, we did an overhaul to it several years ago. That's when we added like kind of the progression levels and boxes and all that. But that's not quite hitting the mark in terms of like having the cosmetics to show off and really displaying like the sum of your account's achievements. I agree that actually if you do temporary content, there should be something permanent from it. I mean, really that's even like the skins you get from season passes are kind of the same thing, right? Like, you know, I completed the season pass, or I was there for that season because I have the skin to sort of show off for that. Again, going back to making sure the home village is 90% perfect, it's much easier to build the profile that reflects all the things that you have in your village once we know the village is kind of locked into how this is going to be. So for example, if we had done the profile 6 months ago, we didn't even, I don't think even started crafted defenses 6 months ago. So if we had launched it, it would be showing the stuff, but it wouldn't even have a slot for crafted defenses. So we want to get to a point where we feel like we really like the progression. We really know, again, the extent of temporary content. We're not going to be doing more temporary content than like whatever we're doing at that time. And then it's a lot easier to say, okay, this temporary content supercharges go into this badge. This cosmetic is based from the seasonal crafted defenses and things like that. No timeline, but I will say that we are talking a lot about smaller cosmetics. Emotes, spray paints.
Oh, nice.
Icons, maybe, you know, when you go into a Clash Royale battle, you see the whole
the
things.
And stuff.
Perfect for Clash of Clans. You attack someone, you see their little badges before you reveal it. You kind of already have that with legendary sceneries. Like if somebody has a legendary scenery, you see the little animation, so there's timing for it and all that. I think a lot of it's just what and when and how, but philosophically, I think it's pretty much agreed by everyone on the team that we should have something that represents your progress on temporary content. If you're really going to lean into it, invest it, you should have something permanent to take away. Again, I can't give a timeline, but over the next several months or years, there will be more cosmetic time.
Yeah, I understand that then. Like it's I do appreciate wanting to get to a spot where it makes sense to then move to it. People know it is something that will come in the future, but it's like you don't know when.
Can I tell you my favorite one?
Okay.
Again, nothing. We can
This
cut
is your
in.
personal favorite,
This is my,
not your...
this is my personal favorite.
Yeah, no.
No guarantee we're doing this. This is just something I like. Builder skins.
I love it.
Oh, I want this. I want
Villager skins.
Yeah, well, let's make the builders 3D models.
Yeah.
Let's dress them up, because you see them on Attack and Defense. Like, I see these swear word builders repairing the buildings I'm trying to kill. So yeah, like they might as well be in Santa hats or something if I'm going to see them.
I loved the 5th Clashversary where the builder left and we had like the barbarian as the builder, then the witch as the builder, and it was really fun. It was nice and refreshing. I think that's a perfect area for cosmetics. The villagers again is something where it's almost like a different character, right? Not even a skin. You're actually having the villager be a different character, and you could tailor that way. All villagers are the same, or maybe you can actually have multiple different villagers looking different. Like whatever. There's a lot of different areas you can.
One of the Supercell beta
played
games?
Everdale and gave feedback, but I didn't persist with.
Sure, you weren't
playing
OJ tier.
I was not OJ tier.
Yeah, I mean, one of the great things about that game is you could dress up your villagers, and it was fun to sort of have the one villager who I dressed like a lumberjack and he was really good at chopping wood and that kind of thing. Obviously, the builders in Clash are not quite so specific like that, but I do think that people would enjoy matching a scenery, having builders that sort of fit with the scenery, that fits with other skins, their hero skins and things like that. So there's ideas out there, but again, it's all a matter of focus and what when. We're recording this in June, and one of the big challenges is that we're just starting the update cycle. So literally, like this week, we're having these meetings of like, okay, should this go in the next update or the update after that? Should we move this around, shuffle it? And so if we were talking in, let's say mid-August, I'd be able to tell you with a lot more certainty what's coming in the next update. But just because of the timing of this video, I really can't.
Yeah.
So to the community, I know it feels like I'm not really giving super solid answers to everything, and it's because we're literally doing that sort of update planning right now. But the next 2 updates have amazing stuff in it. Like some really, some of the stuff you've asked me about, we will definitely address. I just can't tell you what or when because I can't make that promise, but I promise the next 2 updates are going to be great.
Well, that is amazing to hear. And I know you can't commit to something. There's a big team, right? Like you can't just make the decision of, and you don't want to commit to something and then not like deliver on that. If
Ferry's got a pistol
delayed,
just off camera.
He is really looking at me right now, isn't he? You don't want to commit to a 6-month like. But yeah, I just wanted to also give you the opportunity of if there's anything we didn't discuss that you want to share with the team, or even just a message to the community. Now is your time.
We did this video, and we're doing the Builder Hut because of the community feedback. The community said, we want to hear more about this. We want to know your thought process. We want to know why you're doing the things you're doing. And we don't want to be secretive. We don't feel like, that our motives are bad or anything like that. If we're doing something wrong or you disagree philosophically with, how we're approaching this game, let us know. There is not a day that goes by that we aren't seeing some meme off Reddit or some Twitter post or some long thing from the creator Discord channel or whatever that's being shared to the team. Every week, Ferry and Marco and Vlad show us, they do a slideshow of like, here's the community vibes, here's what people are worried about, here's what people are suggesting. We see things from new troop ideas to complaints about mid-town hall progress to crafted defense feedback, etc., right? And we're reacting to it all the time. And I know it can feel slow because of course updates are months apart and sometimes you're like, oh my God, I wrote this post last week, why isn't it fixed this week? But that's game development and large scale production, right? It's going to be a little bit slower to react than you would like, but we're an open book. Like by all means, keep making your big posts, keep giving us feedback, keep contacting us, creators, can contact us directly and share what their audience is thinking. We're taking it all in. We are genuine when we say we want this to be the biggest strategy game in the world. And right now, Clash is growing. Like it is a game that is growing, and that's because of this sort of symbiotic relationship between our community and the developers, and we want to keep leaning into that. So yeah, let us know. You want Clash to be the best game ever. We want Clash to be the best game ever, and where we find agreement, those things will happen.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that and like reassuring people. And I think, like I said, over time, you are certainly building that trust with the community, and I would just encourage the open transparency and the communication and continue to do a good job on that. So,
and we're going to mess up. Like I said, as I said before, we will mess up from time to time. Just as a kind of ending maybe story, I've played Magic the Gathering for over 30 years now. That is a game that has had broken metagames from time to time. They print cards they shouldn't have printed, things like that. And they fix it. And now when a new set comes out and there's something that's a little broken, I go, you know what? I see what they're trying to do. Like, they're trying to challenge us. They're trying to give something they've never done before. And when you do something you've never done before, you don't exactly know where the limits are right away. I hope that we can look back on the Crafted Defense Season 1 and go, I get what they were doing, and God, the other seasons were much better. And I really hope that 10 seasons from now, when we have done so many Crafted Defense seasons, we can start to even play into the nostalgia of it. As you mentioned, like, we could have a season where we bring back Eagle Artillery against a super OP defense from Season 3 and a super OP defense from Season 5, and people get to have this fun of like, oh man, what was better, right? Like, the Season 3 broken one or the Season 5 broken one. They'll both be balanced by then, but you know what I mean? Like, we're building a history together. Like, this is a 13-year-old game, and at some point, games go from sort of trendy and ephemeral to timeless and classic, and I see Clash of Clans as on the same tier as Civilization and these other strategy games that just have decades of history behind them. We're building that history right now. So when something feels bad, let us know. We're going to fix it. And you know what? Maybe 2 years from now, you're going to be sitting around reminiscing on this period of your life. You know, oh my God, I was playing so much. My kid was just born, and that means I was playing a lot more because I was up with the baby. But then 2 years later, time came and I quit playing Clash for a year. But then I came back and all these new things were improved. And like, Clash is really more than a game, right? It's for us, for you. It's more than it's your career, it's my career, and in a way, it's really a fundamental part of our lifestyle. More so than other video games out there. We're in this for the long haul, and so yeah, like, keep talking, right? The worst thing that could possibly happen is that people quit talking about Clash. So if something's making you happy or upset, let us know.
Then you can aim to fix it.
The conversation never stops.
Exactly. And I do think it's important that you mention the long-term aspect of things, right? Because when it comes to crafted defenses, I know it feels a bit controversial and there's a lot of talk about it now, but you are doing that for the game to live on and make sure that in like 5 years' time, it's still relevant, and you're adding things that will help long-term success of the game. And I think that's also something that we need to keep in mind as well when these are getting added. And like you said, just give you that chance to fix it as well. So hopefully I can interview you again in the future. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. I'm sure my community has enjoyed it as well. So
anytime,
thank you very much.
You know where I live.
Appreciate it. I really hope you've enjoyed listening to this 4-part interview series. I had a blast chatting with the Clash of Clans team. Thank you for submitting your questions, and thank you for 100,000 subscribers. I wanted to make sure that we could celebrate that here on the second channel because I really do appreciate your support, and I hope you've liked listening to a peek behind the curtain as to what the Clash of Clans team think and how the game is developed. So thank you once again, and I will see you in the next video.